Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can watch us on YouTube and Rumble while following us on Facebook, or find us on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for past episodes, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe or follow today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Hello and welcome wherever you might be on the spaceship we call Earth. This is Conscious Radio Network's The Seance Podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, please be sure to subscribe, like, share, comment, and also don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Today, we are joined by Dr. Elizabeth Freed, also known as the San Marcos Medium. Dr. Freed, a self-proclaimed medium by choice, shares how she learned to connect with the spirit world after spending 40 years in the corporate world as an executive coach. She describes her first encounter with the spirit world in her office, a moment of overwhelming love and golden light, and how that shifted her focus to mediumship. Now she helps others develop this skill, bringing clarity and peace through evidential readings. Let's welcome to the seance today, Dr. Elizabeth Freed.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. It's such a pleasure to be here today. I'm delighted.
Welcome. And another a past guest of mine, great friend and past guest of mine, actually, I believe referred you to the show.
Oh, Timmy? Was it Timmy?
Yes, it was Timmy.
Yes. Timmy was a subcontractor for me when I was doing executive coaching. She's a wonderful person, and we both taken a spiritual path. So there you go. Yeah. It's amazing what the what spirit does, how it assists us, and how synchronicities happen within our lives, and the people you meet, and where you can go. So, explain a little bit. Take us back into that corporate realm. How did that revolve, that experience? Well, first of all, I'm very left brain, very corporate, very straight, never believed any of this. I thought, when you're dead, you're done, so let the good times roll. That's kind of where I was coming from. And then I had this experience, about 20 some years ago in my office, where I was talking to a client on the phone. It was GE aircraft engine, so you could not be any more corporate than that. Yeah. And I was sitting there, with the phone to my ear, and all of a sudden, I noticed there was a golden glow coming into the room. And I just thought, that's interesting. But I'm going, yes, I think 2:00 will work. And I'm carrying on this conversation. And then all of a sudden, I felt this overwhelming sense of unconditional love fill the room. I had never felt this kind of love before. We're not talking romantic love. The closest thing I can liken it to is maybe when a mother first looks upon her baby. Unconditional love. I have no children, so I don't know, but I'm just guessing that might be it. And so I thought, well, maybe this is my husband who had been out that morning, was walking into the room, because but then I felt this gentle squeeze on my shoulder, and I thought, what is he doing interrupting me? I'm on a business call. So I went to wheel around to say, look, I'll be with you in just a minute. And there was no one there. And I went, woo! And the lady on the phone said, are you okay? And I said, yes, I'm fine. Something just startled me. It's fine. And I concluded my call. And after that, the love feeling started to dissipate, and the golden glow went away, and things normalized. And I just sat there with my head, my hand under my chin, going like, what was that? And it was the most wonderful feeling.
but I couldn't tell you. And I yearned to have that feeling again.
Yeah.
But 20 years passed and I never felt it until about maybe 6-7 months ago when I was meditating and one of my guides came in, a new one.
Huh.
And she's my mediumship guide and an angel. And I felt it from her and I thought, wow, how nice to rediscover that feeling. So it was very nice. But prior to this meeting of this angel of mine,
Yeah.
I had taken courses from the Monroe Institute. Have you ever heard of the Monroe?
Yep. Yeah.
I
Right
had
now.
an out-of-body experience in my 20s that was a little startling, but I never pursued it. Look, I had to run a business. I didn't have time to do this. Besides, if I told anybody what I was interested in, they would think I was woo-woo nuts, and I just couldn't afford that. So I just kind of put it aside. But I'd go to occasional courses at the Monroe Institute. I'd get interested, but I'd never pursue it. And then several years ago, they offered a course called Mediumship Toolkit. Now, this was not one of their normal standard courses. And I went, I wonder what that's about. I thought you have to sort of be born with that stuff. Well, I learned you don't, that anybody and everyone can be a medium. It requires education, meditation, and most of all, practice, 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 practice. You're constantly practicing and you're constantly evolving and you're constantly developing and learning new things. And it's an evolution. I am what is known as an evidential medium. So I will provide you with very specific evidence about the spirit I'm connected to so that you know that you're not alone, that spirit is there with you and wants to send you a message. My intention in all of this work is to be of service. My whole world in the work I did and everything was to be of service. And now I'm going to be of service in a different way. This way I can help people understand that we never really die. Our physical bodies may go away, but our spirit remains and is always there and is watching us and cheering us on and eager to connect with us. We just aren't aware. And that's the whole purpose of a medium. The medium is there to help bring those messages forward. And my intention is to bring forward a healing or empowering message so that the client walks away feeling better. That's really what the bottom line is.
Yeah. Better, stronger. Sometimes too, it's the strength. Sometimes that message too gives the sitter strength of realizing, wow, I'm not alone. I do have this army behind me. And the doubts that we may have had, before the reading too, it's like it comes back, it comes forth, and it's like, oh, wow, I am on the right direction, or going on the right direction. Yeah. Yeah, I remember too, like and this was years ago. This is, well, more than a decade ago, definitely. Always had that mediumistic ability, knowing things and describing things that just nobody would ever know. And especially training the body. It's like, yeah, it's something that we all inherently have, like you said. And it's just the more you do it, the more you get into the decorum, the more you get into the work, and you practice. And I always refer mediumship and the human psyche as learning a new instrument. You got to continuously practice in order to become a master of that instrument, the vessel as the tool for mediumship.
That's right.
And it's amazing too, because sometimes we don't. When I first started, I was doing things and I'm like, I did not do that. There's no way. It's like,
you have to trust and believe.
Right? Yeah.
Part of it is trusting and believing. And it's so hard because you say, oh my God, am I making this stuff up? I mean, really?
Yeah.
But I could share with you a few stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
That demonstrate there's no way I could possibly have known any of these things. No way.
Yeah.
And there are just some really, really interesting experiences that I've had with clients that I use when I connect. I use what is known as a variety of clairs. I use clairvoyance. I see in the screen of my mind, not in front of me like people seeing a ghost, they see a specter. No, it's in my mind. And then I hear in my head. And I feel my whole body. I might get the shivers, or I might get a pain somewhere that reflects that the spirit is sending me information that way. I also, as you talk about, it's and the feeling is clairsentience, the hearing is clairaudience, and then there's claircognizance, where you just know information. And I wait a second here. Oh gosh.
See, they're calling you now. They're calling you.
Yeah, this is not. I've been having problems with my phone, and this is the issue. It's gonna. I'm so sorry about that.
No
but
worries.
I
No
turned
worries.
all my other phones off. So anyway, what was I saying? Oh gosh. Oh yes, claircognizance, where you just know. So here's an example. I go through a basic process. I'm more structured than perhaps other mediums, where the first thing I do is I connect, and then what'll happen is, oftentimes I will get some random image or word or something, and I'll just put it out there, and I'll say, for example, I got an image of an elephant. Would you understand that? And the person might say to me, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I say, okay, well, let's look at it metaphorically. It could mean something really big happened in that spirit's life, or there was an elephant in the room and nobody wanted to talk about. Would you understand that? They might say possibly. I'll say, okay, let's put a pin on that, and we'll come back. We'll go into the regular reading. And then I will describe everything that I find, and I will talk about it. And then I might give them 5 to 7 pieces of evidence. And then I'll stop and I'll say, would you understand a male who passed after the age of 70? He was quite tall. And then I'll go and give them all this evidence, and they'll say, you know what? Yes, that sounds like my Uncle Joe. So I say, okay, now that we know that we're connected with Uncle Joe, I'm going to give you a memory that only the two of you know. And then I'll give them the memory. When they validate that, that's as part of the evidence, then I will give them a message from Uncle Joe. And that's the process that I take my readings through. So I can give you an example of a reading. And what you have to understand is that spirits really are people. They just don't have bodies. They haven't changed. Their personalities are the same. Everything's the same. So I connected with this one woman, and I said to her, we determined it was her husband as I was describing him and everything. She says, yes, this is my husband. And I said, okay, well, let me come up with a memory that only the two of you share. And so I said, he's showing me that you're out camping by a fire, and there's a camper there, but you're not in a tent. You're like in a camper, but this camper isn't in an RV park. It's like in some grassy area or something. And then there are these crummy lawn chairs that you're sitting on. You know, those old rickety aluminum lawn chairs.
Yeah.
And I said, your husband's playing a guitar. And I said, would you understand that? She goes, yes. And she said, you would have no way of knowing this, but we have a rather large property. And about 100 yards from the house, we have one of our campers parked in a grassy area. And every weekend we would go there and play like we're camping. And I said, oh my, that's interesting. Well, I had determined that her husband had passed of a heart attack. He was maybe between the ages of 50 and 60 at the time.
Wow.
So this happened so quickly, that this reading that I gave her, I mean, the information just came really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, we have some time. Do you have any questions you'd like me to ask him? She said, well, I always wondered if anything precipitated that heart attack. And I was shocked. I said, are you asking me if someone contributed to his death? Because I didn't get anything that was wrong here. It seemed natural to me, but I'll ask him. She said, well, I said, you weren't there? And she said, no, he was out of town at a hotel. So I said, okay, let me ask him. So I asked him. Oh, she did mention to me, she said, he was out of town at a hotel, but his son was with him, and his son has mental illness. So I said, well, are you asking me, did his mentally ill son do something that stressed him out so much that it caused this heart attack? She said, well, I've always wondered about that. I said, all right, so I'll ask him. So I did. And he said something to me. And I said, did he ever call you darling? Would you understand that? She said, I said, not darling, but darling. She said, yes. He says, no, darling. My son had nothing to do with this. As a matter of fact, I was more concerned about him finding me in the morning than anything else. And then he said something. Now, I have to be very careful when I talk to people and to be very sensitive because this is her husband that passed. But I wanted to burst out laughing because this man's sense of humor was beyond. I said, I don't know how to tell you this, but your husband's got some sense of humor. He said, no, darling, my son had nothing to do with this. My ticker just ran out of tox. Have you, Paul, ever heard that expression? Because
No, I have never heard that expression.
Never.
Not that.
I've heard my heart ran out of beats, or something like that, but not my ticker ran out of tox. I called 4 cardiologists afterwards. I said, have you ever heard that expression? No. So when you get that kind of information from a spirit, then you know you're not making this stuff up. It's just like, there was. Now, another one that was very interesting, because you get these people, they're not sure, are you really doing what you're doing? And so there was a woman, I do commercials and print work, and I was helping out students with film. So I'm an amateur. I don't know what I'm doing, but I just do it because it's fun.
Yeah.
So I'm on this set with this woman who's a professional actress. She was really very nice. She's a Black woman, maybe in her 50s. And she was very helpful to me because I was kind of floundering. I didn't know what I was doing. So she and I became friends. And a couple times a year, we text each other. When she saw on LinkedIn that I had now transitioned over to doing mediumship, she said, oh, I'd love for you to do a reading for me. Excuse me. So I said, sure. So I do this reading for her. And the first thing I see is a Black man, shirtless, in the jungle with a spear in like war paint and a loincloth kind of thing. And I thought, oh my God. I don't want to tell her what I'm seeing because it's going to sound racist. I was like really nervous. And so I said, but I have to report this because I'm seeing it and I know that what I'm seeing is, I wouldn't see this out of the blue. I mean, So I said to her, I see a Black man who passed between the ages of 40 and 50. And he is very handsome and he is ripped. I mean, this man is really in great physical condition. And then I felt my body take over. And I said, and he is walking with real confidence, almost warrior-like. Would you understand any of this? Now, that's a lot of evidence that I gave her. Yeah. She said, I have no idea who you're talking about. I don't know anything like that. I said, all right, I'm certain about what I'm seeing, so I'm going to ask for more information. Excuse me. So I said, he's saying Panther to me, Black Panther. Would you understand that? Oh, I never was involved with the political group Black Panthers, she responds. I'm so sure at this point. I said, no, we're not talking about the political group Black Panther. We're talking about animal Black Panther. She said, are you talking about Chadwick Boseman, Wakanda Black Panther? I said, I don't know. Let me ask him. Because I wasn't really sure what he looked like. So I asked him and I got the shivers all through me. And I said, yep, that's who we've got here. She says, oh, I knew Chad. We used to go to auditions together all the time. I said, you knew Chadwick Boseman? She said, yes. Now, Chadwick Boseman, and I don't know if you know this, Paul, passed away in his early to mid 40s of colon cancer and kept it very
Yeah.
quiet, and was nominated for an Oscar posthumously, and was very beloved by the acting community. She said, oh my gosh, I used to see him at auditions all the time before his career blew up with Wakanda Black Panther and the Fantastic Four. And so she said, well, I can't imagine why he's coming forward. Well, I said, I told you, and I always say this to people, I have no control who's going to come forward. I can only tell you that they're here for your greatest good, and they have a message that they need to give you for your greatest good. So she says, I said, all right, I'm going to give you a message since you've now identified him. And I said, he's showing me like a stage set with the two canvas actors' chairs. I'm seeing like an empty stage set with two actors' chairs there. Would you understand that? Nah, we never did anything. We never did a film together. Everything was no until it wasn't, okay? So I said, all right, I'll ask him for another memory. So I said, he's now showing me the two of you having lunch in LA at a restaurant that's kind of like outdoors. There's like chairs outside the restaurant, or it's a restaurant that has that glass top overhead that makes you feel like you're outdoors. Would you understand that? She said, yes, we did have lunch one time in LA. I said, great. So then I give her message. And then she says, we're debriefing now. She said he was a really stand-up guy, and I used to see him all the time, and then he got married and his career blew up. But she said before that, he asked me to do a project with him, but I was tied up on some other projects. I couldn't do it. There was some film or TV show I was doing. I said, oh, he asked you to be on a film project with him? She said, yes. I said, that memory he showed me of the two of you on a stage set, that was to jar your memory that he had asked you to be on a project with him. See, they tell you that when the client is so oftentimes so overwhelmed, they can't remember, they can't know. It's not until sometimes the next day or weeks later that they put together what you told them. But I have learned to trust spirit. And I was so certain that I had him, that what I was seeing, because it was so crazy. And then I had another situation that was very interesting. I wish they all were this juicy, but they're not always so juicy. Well, here's one not so juicy, but also interesting. I was practicing with another medium, and this platform I use allows me to practice with people all over the world. So I had connected with her uncle or something, and now I was giving her a message, and I said, she was in London. And I said, he's taking his hands from his mouth and throwing his hands out and going, boo shock, boo shock. And I thought, what the hell? What the hell does that mean? So, but I had to report it. So I said, this is what he said. He said, boo shock. I said, I have no idea what that is. Would you understand that? She said, well, even though I'm living in London, I'm originally from Poland, and bushak in Poland means kisses. Now, there you go. See, there was no way I would know that.
Right.
And now, the one that I think is probably one of the most mind-blowing ones I had was that initial image that I get. I said to this woman, I said, I'm getting an image of a box of vanilla pudding.
Yeah.
And I said, then I hear orange. I said, now I'm hearing the word orange, but I know that there's no such thing as orange pudding. I know of orange jello.
Yeah. So
vanilla pudding, orange jello. I don't know what the two of them have to do together, but it sounds like a creamsicle to me if I were, putting it together. I said, would you understand that? And with the straightest of faces, this woman goes, possibly. So I said, okay. So then I go on with the reading and I connect with her mother and she's very happy. And now we're getting ready to do the memory. And so I said, what do you want to share with me? I asked her mother. And her mother says, kind of through her teeth, she lied to me. And I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to say this? First, the thing is, first do no harm.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm just going to say it in a way. I said, your mother said something about that you had lied to her about something. And she said, that's true. She said once and once only, and it was a big one. And she never let me live it down. She brought it up every opportunity, and she's still bringing it up. So I said, okay. Well, she wanted you to know she was here. So, and then I give her the message and so forth, and she's all very happy. And I think we're done. She says, just a minute. She leaves. I'm doing this over Zoom. So she leaves the screen. She comes back. In her hand is a box of vanilla pudding and a box of orange Jello. She's holding them up in front of her face, buttoning them up against each other. She said, I have had these in my pantry for 5 years. They were given to me by my mother. And I said, Mom, what are you giving me this for? I don't need this. I don't even use this. An orange, vanilla pudding and orange Jello, they don't even go together. And my mother says, I don't know. You'll figure it out. Take them. Maybe you could make a creamsicle. Now, Paul, then you're not making this up. How in the world would I ever come up with such random stuff? That's crazy. Yeah. So I was being spoken to. So those are the kinds of things that make people really understand. And so I've had those experiences. And then I was doing a psychic fair somewhere. And someone said to me, can you connect with animals? And I said, well, I never have. That's really not anything I've ever practiced or done. She said, oh, my mother really wants to connect with her dog. And I said, I'm sorry, but animals are sentient beings, and I know that people can do it, but I've never practiced it or done it, and I'm not comfortable charging you to do it, so I'm going to have to pass. So she said, okay, well, then I'd like you to do a reading for me. I do this reading for her, and who comes into her reading but this animal, right? So then I said, if this is important to people, maybe I need to see if I can do it. So I went out on Facebook and I said, listen, I had this request. Anybody that has a deceased pet that they want to have me read for, let me know. And I will practice on you. No charge, just this practice. So 8 people responded. I was able to connect with 7 of them. There are 2 that are most interesting. The first one was an old friend of mine. When I lived in Ohio, I knew her. And she said, I want you to connect with my border collie, Bella. So I said, okay, I connect. I said, Bella was black and white. She said, that's right. So I said, I'm seeing Bella with a red ribbon and a bell around her neck. Would you understand that? She said, no, Bella never had a ribbon and a bell. So I said, all right, let me go back and ask her to give me something else to deal with. I said, she showed me she's batting a ball of yarn around. How is a dog batting Would you understand that? She said, oh, you know what? I think you're connected with Bella the cat. I said, you tell me you have a dog and a cat named Bella? She said, oh, this Bella the cat was from 50 years ago. I said, wow. Well, you didn't have this cat when we lived in Ohio. I don't remember you having a cat. She said, no, I didn't have her then. So I was drawn to my glasses, which you can see are sort of horn rim.
Yeah.
And I said, Bella was calico. And she said, that's right. I said, well, let me see what she has to say. Bella's talking about New York, something about New York. She said, I had Bella when I was in Washington, D.C. So that's East Coast. I'll take it. Sometimes, they're not always literal, but they're giving you symbols. All right.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, so let's see what kind of what Bella has to say. And I hear something and I can't start laughing. I said, uh-oh, I don't think Bella's very happy with you. She goes, why? I said, she's saying, you have some nerve giving a dog my name. So after that, and this is the one that's most interesting to me, I have a colleague of mine that is a psychologist, and she raises donkeys. Now, I've never really seen a donkey up close, so I'm thinking a donkey is a mule. I don't know. I'm not very knowledgeable, all right? So she wants me to connect with her deceased donkey, Winston. So I said, okay. So I said, Winston is brown. She said, no, he was not brown. So I said, okay, let me go back and look. Now, watch my mouth and see what happens to my lip. All of a sudden, I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, I go. I said, I get this lip twitch here, like that Elvis, snarl kind of thing. And I said, was something going on? Would you understand something was going on with Winston's mouth, teeth, or gums? And she said, you're in the right place. You want me to tell you? I said, no, do not tell me. Because clients are told as I give them evidence, they're only supposed to answer yes, no, I don't know, maybe, I can't remember, because you don't want them to tip their hand. Mm-hmm. So I said, no, don't tell me. Then in my head, very loud booming, I hear the word tobacco. I said, he just said tobacco. Would you understand that? She said, mm-hmm. Want me to tell you? I said, no. Would you understand that he chewed tobacco? She said, no, he did not chew tobacco. Something, what the heck is he trying to tell me? And I said, I don't really know the meaning of this. You clearly understand it, so you can tell me. She said, Winston died of oral cancer. Now, people who chew tobacco oftentimes get oral cancer. Now, Winston doesn't say to me, I died of oral cancer. He's giving me symbols that she would understand.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't matter that I understand. I'm just the channel here giving this information. So I said, okay. I said, all right. So let's see if he can give me some memories or things that the two of you understand. I said, now he is saying to me something like, he's saying 25. Would you understand that? She said, yes, he passed when he was 25. Huh. I said, now he's following that up with 5. I have no idea what this is about, but it's not up to me to interpret. She goes, yep, there were 5 donkeys in the herd. So again, I had no idea. And then, of course, I gave her messages, and she was agonizing over whether or not she should have euthanized him or not. And he assured her he was fine and that she made the right decision and all that kind of stuff. So, and that gave her tremendous satisfaction to know that he was okay and enjoying himself on the other side. So those are just some of the experiences that my clients have with me. Not always as startling as this, but oftentimes good. I remember I was doing a practice session, and the first thing that came out of me was, my random thing. Mm-hmm. It was, what was it? It was a song. It was like, it was not everything's coming up roses. It's just, it was a song like that. Everything's coming up roses, da, da, da. And I said, would you understand that? And he said, yes. And then he told me later that his mother always saw things. That was the essence of his mother's personality, that she always saw things positively. That when he did not know the song itself, he was from Switzerland. Yeah. But that's the nature of the song and the meaning of it was reflective of his mother.
Wow.
Those are the kinds of things. And here's the other thing. When I decided to do this, part of what I made a commitment to, because I'm retired, and I decided that there were certain things I wanted to do in retirement. I wanted to travel. I wanted to find an organization to be of service to. I wanted to explore my spirituality and so forth. So here I am exploring my spirituality, and then the organization that I wanted to be of service to. For the past 8 years, I have been a pro bono coach for an organization called the Honor Foundation. Mm-hmm. And they serve special operations, military, Navy SEALs, Marine Raiders, Delta Force, Green Beret, Army Rangers, those people, and helping them transition from the military to the civilian workforce.
Yeah.
And my skill set was very much aligned to that. And I have given them my time and my talent for the past 8 years. And I wanted to give them my treasure, but I'm on a fixed income now, so I need that to live, and I don't have that much in excess to give like I'd like to do. And I said, well, for my 75th birthday, I had this big birthday bash, and people, I said, I don't want you to give me a present. I don't need any more stuff. I'd rather have you make a donation to the nonprofit that I support because I want them to be able to expand their programs. And I'm happy to say I was able to raise $12,000.
Wow.
That was pretty major. So I got this link that people sent their money to. And I got to thinking about this mediumship, and I thought, you know what? I don't really want to have to deal with this as a business per se and then have to monitor it and pay taxes.
Yeah.
I'd rather have, and I said, and it would be so great if I could be a philanthropist while I live, because they're in my will, but, you know, there's only so much I can do. So I said, you know what? Instead of collecting money from people to go into my bank account, I'm going to collect the money and have it go directly to the nonprofit. So that when people go to my site and they want a reading with me, they pick the 30, 45 minute or hour reading with me. They make a donation to the Honor Foundation. They send me the receipt, and then they could book a session with me.
Wow.
So this way, and they get a write-off because it's a 401(c), you know? So
Yeah.
It's win-win-win. Everybody, I'm able to still contribute to the organization financially. I still do coaching for them, but it allows me to contribute some money to them through my mediumship, which is really joyful for me to be able to be of service in that way also.
Yeah. And speaking of how people can find you, for those who are watching, it's scrolling on the bottom of the screen. But for those who are listening, where can they find you online?
Well, you can find me at elizabethfreed.com/medium. And I see you have HTTPS. It is not HTTPS.
Really?
It is not a secure, no, because they go to a secure system when they pay, but my system is not HTTPS. It's just www or HTTP. Either one will get you there.
Weird. Yeah, because that shows up. It shows up as that on my web browser.
Really, it does?
Yeah.
Well, that's nice to know. So,
Right?
I didn't go through any protocols to make it a secure site.
Some servers now, or some I wouldn't say domain. Some what do they call those? Some hosts that do that. It's like I guess some of them are doing it anyway.
They automatically make it secure. Well, I didn't know that. So
Yeah.
that's something new I learned. Thank you for calling that to my attention.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And yeah, it's a really cool website too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it's very brief. It's really only one page. With
Simple, brief.
testimonials.
Yeah, to the point. You got your 30-minute and 60-minute readings. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I like the the picture that you have on the website. You're sitting in the that leather chair.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a little bit from the distance and from the graininess of the photo, and I think it's because it's not too clear. You know who you look like in that photograph? You look like that actress. What's her name? She was in that movie Death Becomes Her with
Meryl Streep or
Meryl Streep, yes.
Oh, well, I think that
from a distance, you look like Meryl Streep in that photograph.
When I'm sitting in the black leather chair in the black suit with the red with the black leather, not the white out,
not the white one, no. Black glasses, black suit, and the dark brown leather.
Yeah. Well, that's very nice of you to say. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's big, you know. If I only had her acting chops, oh my God.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, let's see what else. Oh, so yeah, to wrap up the show, I usually ask our guests, what do you have as a takeaway for our audience today? Some words of wisdom.
I think the takeaway is that your loved ones are always around you, and they want to connect with you. They want to send you love, and they are just waiting for the right medium to come along that they can connect with that will allow you to get this message. So if you're hearing me now and you're so inclined, maybe your departed loved one is asking you to get in touch. And it really doesn't have to be with me. It could be with any other. I am verified through uh, uh, an organization called verysoul.com. I had to go through a bunch of steps to be them. And you just want to make sure you have somebody that's legitimate. Oh, the other thing is, if you talk to a medium and they start asking you questions before you get started, or they're wanting you to go further and elaborate, then be suspect. Because with me, when I'm giving you evidence, I will not ask you to give me detail until I've delivered everything, and then you can debrief with me afterwards. But when I give you pieces of evidence, I'll say, do you understand that? You'll say, yes, no, I don't know. I don't remember, whatever. It's always okay to say no. And you shouldn't feel like you have to say yes. You say no. It just means that, the medium just needs to go and dig deeper. And a secure medium will do that for you. And, and also I would say to you, if you notice synchronicities, if you notice signs, if you notice unusual things, they're not a coincidence. Someone is trying to communicate with you, and start to be aware. Yeah. And it's important.
Yeah. And some of the, some of the things that I've read for people, some of the things I'd say that, like you said, they don't ring right off the bat. They may not, but I let them know. I'm like, okay, all right, well, we'll put that off to the side.
Now, Paul, I didn't know. Are you yourself a medium, Paul?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I did not know that.
Oh, no worries.
That I'm talking to you about is very, very familiar to you, I would think.
Yeah.
Very familiar to you. There's nothing I'm sure I'm telling you that you haven't experienced.
Like I think the most profound reading I've ever done was about 10 years ago. And I was actually in another country, a place I've never been before. Don't know anybody, don't know no one other than the people that I went there with. I went there for work, went to mainland China, and was living in Shanghai for about 9 months, 7-9 months, just short of a year. And it was within the first couple weeks we went out, and this is how foreign the place is. I don't know nobody to anybody. I'm just getting used to the surroundings. And I walk into the first restaurant we go to. We go with a group of people. I'm sitting at the end of the table, and and what's weird too, I wouldn't say weird, but what's interesting is just the day before I was letting the buddy of mine that I went with know what I kind of do outside of work, mediumship and this and that. I was still going through my student mediumship at the time.
Where did you study, by the way?
I studied with the Chapel of Spiritual Light and through the Morris Pratt Institute.
Okay.
So, and so I'm sitting at the end of the table, and we're all getting ready to leave. We're all wrapping things up and stuff, and getting their bills and getting our checks and stuff like that. And I set mine down, and suddenly I'm like, in my mind's eye, it was like a video playing in the back of my mind. I see this woman, long gray hair, Chinese lady, big glasses, bigger glasses than yours, big glasses. And she picks up this big giant book, this big, huge book, thick, and it's opening up, and she's like just showing me stuff and just pointing at it and just really absolute, like, book, like something. And I'm like, what? Like, what's going on? What? And I made it clear, through, whatever spirits, you don't need to know the language. You just say,
right, no, you don't.
They need symbols, and I'll understand the symbols. And as early in the stages of mediumship that I was, that's what was profound about it, was that I was able to understand what the message was, regardless of where I was and who it was.
And this happened in the middle of your getting ready to pay a check. You're getting this vision.
Yep.
Wow.
Getting this vision. Okay. And then I'm like, I snap out of it, and my buddy goes, "Are you all right? Are you okay? Is something going?" And I'm like, "You won't believe what happened." So I tell him, and I'm like, "Okay, I got a reading, but this is like an unsolicited reading. This is a reading the opposite. This is a 180.
This is not the living coming to me asking for a reading. This is those who have passed coming to me to give a reading to somebody in the living. And he's like, and I'm like, who's it for? He goes, who's it for? I'm like, I don't know yet. I'm working on it.
Wow, that is very unusual.
Right? And then I realized who it was for. I sit back and I bring in the energy and I ask, and she goes, and I didn't even know. I knew like right off the bat it was for the server. Young girl, as a server, it was her grandmother. She had just passed through, I think like 3 or 4 weeks earlier, very recently. And the book was education, going back to school. Go back to school, finish college, get the education. Mm-hmm. And I stopped before we were getting ready to leave. I asked for permission, you know. I'm so-and-so. I would like to give you a reading. You know, this is what I do. Like, you know, do I have your permission? She goes, yeah. Luckily, they spoke English. A lot of people in Shanghai speak English. Second language to them. And she goes, yeah, I understand. And so I was like, so I have a message from your grandmother. I believe she had recently passed. And she is telling me very adamantly, you need to stop and go back to school and finish your degree. Whoa. Did she didn't drop everything, but you can tell that it hit a nerve. She stopped. She had to leave to grab some other things. And when we were getting ready to leave, I thought I ran her off. At first, I was like, uh-oh, I hope I didn't do it. Hope they don't call the police or something, right? And so we're all getting ready to leave the restaurant. And as we're filing out the door, I hear a friend of mine say, you know, calls me. He's like, hey, Paul, it gets my attention. I turn around. She's coming up. She's in tears. And she's like, thank you. And it was correct. Her grandmother had just recently passed and was trying to.
Wow, that's really something to be getting this unsolicited thing come in from someone you don't know. Yeah. Well, it's almost like people that do platform work. Mm-hmm. They pick up stuff from anybody in the audience. I have never been myself a fan of doing platform work. I'm no interest in doing that. That's part of one of the things I'm taking a course where we have to experience that, which I'm now looking forward to because it's not my drill. But
yeah, I've pastored a church, a spiritualist church for a little while, for for almost a year, and that was one thing that we do in the spiritualist churches is at the end of service. That's what usually the speaker will get.
Where are you located? Where are you physically located?
Or just outside of Orlando.
Oh, outside of Orlando. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they do that at one of the spiritualist churches here, where somebody will come up and then they'll say, you know, I'm getting this and whatever. It's not my thing. I've always been a one-on-one person. Like I never wanted to do team coaching. It was just not me. So everybody does what they're good at. But I really do appreciate our opportunity to talk today, and likewise. I appreciate your inviting me. It was fun. Is there anything else that you would like to know?
I do appreciate it. It's an honor to have you on, and you're welcome back anytime. Just let me know.
Well, thank you. If I have any new exciting experiences, I'll let you know. I'll just keep tracking them and see. Okay. All right. Well, thank you again for inviting me.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for watching Conscious Radio Network's The Seance. And until next time, we'll see you then.